Hello and welcome to Citizen Science and the COSI BioBlitz. My name is Jordan Rader and I am the manager of online education programs at COSI. We offer interactive video conferencing programs for students in grades 2 through 12 and beyond. Be sure to check out COSI Connects at cosi.org/COSI Connects, our digital doorway for fun at-home science discovery and learning. New content is added regularly, including interactive video conferencing programming. The BioBlitz is part of the COSI Science Festival occurring May 6th through the 9th. Visit cosiscifest.org to learn more about the digital events happening throughout the week. Cap off the week with a big science celebration where we hope to fill all of Central Ohio's social media feeds with science. On May 9th, between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m., gather your supplies from home, build a marshmallow tower, or make a volcano, showcase your science skills, and post to your social media using hashtag COSI SciFest. Today, we will be joined by Dr. Marci Howdyshell, the Director of Science Content. I would like to now turn the program over to her.
Thank you so much, Jordan. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here with all of you today. Hopefully you all can see my slides. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Great. So I'm excited to talk about citizen science today. I see some people have already started talking in the chat, which is great. So if you have any questions during this webinar, please feel free to put them in the chat and I will do my best to answer them. So let's start with the Science Festival. Our BioBlitz is a part of the COSI Science Festival, and unfortunately, as you all probably know, we did have to cancel any in-person events for the Science Festival, but I want to make sure that everyone knows, like Jordan already said, the festival is still going to happen. It's just going to happen virtually. So definitely check out cosiscifest.org. You can look at 2020 events and you'll see it is starting to populate with all of our virtual events that we're going to have for the Science Festival. I also want to say that April is Citizen Science Month, and so we are celebrating Citizen Science Month with our BioBlitz. And I'm going to talk a lot about citizen science during this webinar. If you're really excited about it and you want to look for other citizen science projects, a great place to start is at SciStarter. At scistarter.org, you can sort by different types of activities and different topics that interest you. So definitely check that out if you're excited about citizen science. So at COSI, we frequently say that science is everywhere and it is for everyone. And truly, I'm sure you all know that you can't go through your day without science. Everything from when you wake up and get out of bed in the morning and you're being held to the ground with gravity to when you pick up and check your cell phone and are using all that great technology, to when you eat your breakfast and your body is using that for energy. Science is everywhere and you can't get through your day without it, whether or not you're thinking about that or necessarily recognizing it. And it's also for everyone. So I am always trying to encourage people, anyone who is interested in science, to pursue an education in science, pursue a career in STEM. But even if you haven't, say you have a career far outside of the field of STEM, that's okay. Science is still for you. As an example, I am a trained scientist. I'm a physicist. But when I have free time and I want to relax, I love art. I love painting and doing arts and crafts and all sorts of stuff like that. And I have no formal training in art. I haven't taken a class since high school, but I still feel welcome in the world of art. So I hope all of you feel that way, whether or not you're in a career in the STEM fields. I hope that you feel welcome in the world of science, and hopefully, especially with citizen science, you will see that science is a place for you and you can even have science as a hobby. So what is citizen science? Citizen science is a collaboration between scientists and the public, allowing non-scientists to participate in cutting-edge scientific research. So you can think of it as crowdsourcing scientific research. So we have scientists from all around the world who, generally in science, more data is better. So gathering a lot of data is really time intensive. And so there are scientists who need the help of volunteers to either help gather that data or help analyze that data. And of course, there are people all around the world who are excited about science, enjoy science, and want to volunteer. So all citizen science does is it kind of brings those two groups together and allows them to help one another. So just to give some more concrete examples, I have a few examples of citizen scientists up on the screen. So I just want to share with you their stories so you can learn some examples of citizen science. So first we have Hannys van Arkel, and she is a Dutch school teacher who was just really excited about astronomy. So she participated in a citizen science project called Galaxy Zoo. And the way that works is you get images of faraway galaxies, and after a brief tutorial, you learn how to classify them based on their shape. So this is an example of analyzing data for scientists. She was looking at these galaxies and classifying them based on their shape. Another example we have in the middle, some 7th grade students from Evergreen Middle School, I believe that is in California. And every year, 7th grade students at that school get to participate in the Mars Student Imaging Program. So this is another example of citizen science. And the way it works is the class will work together to come up with a research project and a research question that they want to answer. And this project is in collaboration with NASA. So they send that, that question out. And then if it is accepted, NASA will send them images from orbiters of Mars, and they get to use those images to answer their science question. So it's another really cool example of citizen science. And then our last picture here is a picture of a teenager from the Ukraine named Kirill Dudko, and he was always interested in biology. So his citizen science project that he worked on was through an organization called Neptune Canada, and they actually have cameras at the bottom of the ocean where you can go online, log in, and observe what's going on at the bottom of the ocean in their cameras. So those are 3 different examples of citizen science projects that people participate in. And there's a reason I'm mentioning these 3, because there's a little bit more to the story for them. So Hanny, as she was looking at galaxies, you can see the kind of bright white spot almost in the middle of that image. That's a galaxy that she was classifying. But underneath, she saw this, it's green in this image. She saw something and she didn't know what it was. So she went on the forum for Galaxy Zoo and asked if anyone else knew what it was, because she was curious about it. And the conversation went on, and eventually some researchers got involved, and it turns out that this is a very rare astronomical object. And there have been a number of papers that have come out since then, and it has now been named Hannys Voorwerp. And the word Voorwerp in Dutch means object. So this is Hannys astronomical object. Those elementary school students, similarly, they got those images of Mars, and they looked at them, and they also saw something that they hadn't been expecting. So you can see it's in the middle of the red box there on the screen, and it kind of looked like a hole. And so they sent a question back to the researchers, and they said, we don't know what this is. We weren't expecting it. What is it? Turns out that 7th grade class actually found a cave on Mars. And last but not least, this is an image from a video that Kirill took when he was looking at these cameras from Neptune Canada. So you can see the white bit there is just part of the structure holding the camera, and there is an eel-like fish. It's called a hagfish that was kind of chilling there on top of it. And you can kind of see a nose coming in there. And so what happens in the video is it comes in, sucks up the fish, and then just disappears from the frame. So he did the same thing. He said, what is that? He sent the video to the researchers and asked them, what is the monster that came in from the side of this video? And again, they had to dig a little deeper into it. They got some marine mammal researchers on the case and found that this is actually an elephant seal that dove down to the bottom to eat this hagfish. And what's really neat about that is that while they had an idea of how deep elephant seals could dive, it had never before been seen or recorded on camera. So he actually, helped them learn something new about these elephant seals. So what I love about these stories is that every single finding here just came from someone, A, participating in citizen science, and B, being curious about it, asking questions. And I think that that's really great, perfect examples of how you can participate in citizen science and be a scientist. Now, not everyone's going to get an astronomical object named after them, and that's okay. Every contribution to citizen science is still helping research, which is really great. So ultimately, citizen science, it allows scientists, of course, to process large amounts of data more quickly. It allows them to share their research with the public, and I think that this is really important. So a lot of scientific research is grant funded, a lot of research is funded by tax dollars, and you know, the publications that they're writing up go into these journals that oftentimes, you know, people paying their tax dollars don't necessarily read. And I think that that's getting better with open source, but I think that citizen science in and of itself is a really great way for people to understand what are researchers studying. And of course, you know, it allows scientists to save money, and they can now use that money to further their research. Citizen science is also, of course, really great for participants. So it, of course, allows you to learn more about the science of the world around you, which for some of us, that's enough. But it also really helps you to be able to contribute to meaningful research projects that matter to you. So, you know, maybe space isn't your thing, maybe under the ocean isn't your thing. You know, one citizen science project I've been participating in lately, it's called Stall Catchers, and I did find this on SciStarter. And it is a citizen science project that is furthering Alzheimer's research, and that is meaningful to me. So there are so many different projects out there that I'm sure you can find one that really means something to you. And ultimately, you know, it allows participants to use their time to make a difference. And I know right now, a lot of us are finding that we have some extra time. We have some extra time at home. And so I think that a really great way to use some of that time when maybe you can't go out and meet up with friends is to participate in citizen science, because a lot of these projects, all you need is an internet connection to participate. So I want to share one of my favorite citizen science platforms. It's called iNaturalist. So going out into nature, and you can kind of see at the bottom, this 1, 2, 3 kind of shares how iNaturalist works. So one, we have record your observations. So this is what you would be doing as a citizen scientist participating in this project. So recording your observations just means that you are going to go outside with a camera or your phone, find a living organism out there that's living in the wild, snap a picture of it and upload it to iNaturalist. That's recording an observation. And it's as simple as that. That's all you really have to do. Now, once you upload an observation to iNaturalist, it goes public immediately. So you are actually on step 2, sharing with your fellow naturalists. So it's kind of like, you can think of it as a social network for naturalists and hobbyists. And so once your picture is up there, once your observation is up there, it can be used by scientists who are studying different types of plants, animals, fungus, things like that. It can also be used by people who are just interested in, you know, learning more about these things. 3 on here, I think, is particularly valuable. Discuss your findings. So if you upload an organism, say you go outside and you find a plant and you don't know what it is. You can upload it still, just say, I don't know what it is. Don't label it. And chances are, in a couple of days, someone is going to identify that plant. So because you have interactions with other naturalists on iNaturalist, you then have the opportunity to learn more about the world around you. So I think that that's really great, and I have certainly learned more about mostly insects and plants in my backyard. So iNaturalist is the platform that we'll be using for our BioBlitz, and because of that, I just want to really briefly just show you all how to make an observation on iNaturalist. Now, most people find that downloading the free app is the best way to do it, and you can certainly do that. I'm going to show you how to make an observation online, just because I'm on my computer right now, but it's roughly the same. So I'm going to go ahead and click this, and you can see I am logged into my profile on iNaturalist. Something interesting that you can see right here yesterday someone helped me identify one of my observations. So I'm going to go to observations, and this is where you can see all of the images that I've uploaded. You can also see them on a map, so it's kind of a cool way to track things. If you go on a trip and you want to save those observations on iNaturalist, you can certainly do that and go back to them later. To add an observation, I'm going to go to this blue button that says Add Observations, and then it's going to ask you to choose a file. So I went out this morning and took this picture. It's maybe not the most exciting image, but it is a weed in my backyard. And I am going to go ahead and upload it. So the things that you need for an observation are an image. You want to make sure that it's a good image, it's in focus. You can certainly add multiple images if you would like. And then you need the date and time that you took that image and the location. And the nice thing is that you can have your phone track that metadata of the date and time and the location for you. So you can see that mine already, those fields populated without me having to do anything. And if you download the free app, there'll just be a pop-up that says, do you want to allow us to track the location? Do you want to allow us to track the date and time? You can just allow that, and then it'll do it for you. I know some people don't want to do that, and that's perfectly fine. You don't have to. You just need to know that those pieces of information are valuable. So maybe take a field notebook out with you and jot those things down, track your GPS every time you take an image so that you can manually enter those. There's an opportunity to add a description here if you want to add some field notes, and you'll see species name right here. So iNaturalist will help you try and guess, and it looks like they are guessing dandelions. So I could go ahead and click that. I can also upload it without a species name, and that's okay. And that would be, again, like I said, if you don't know what it is, that's fine. No need to identify it. One thing I want to note on here is that oftentimes people want to take pictures of, say, their pets or a really cool animal that they saw at the zoo or a flower in their garden. And that's not really what iNaturalist is for. So we want things that are there naturally, not because humans put them there. But if you do have a picture of something like that, you're going to want to go ahead and click this box, captive or cultivated, so that researchers know that zebra is at the zoo and it's not a zebra you saw roaming around in Ohio. So I'm going to go ahead and click Submit Observation, and it's going to save, and that's all there is to it. So as you can imagine, this can be really, really quick, and if you have the app, you can go on a hike and very easily upload 20 observations in one hike. Okay, so I get a lot of questions about iNaturalist asking, how does this really help researchers? What are the odds that I'm actually going to find a new species in Ohio? And that may be true. Maybe you won't find a new species, and that's fine. So I wanted to share a few examples of ways in which iNaturalist helps researchers, because of course there are quite a few. So the first picture here is of a plant called pine sap. And I got this image from a researcher at Ohio State University, Dr. John Freudenstein, and he is the chair of the Department of Evolution, Ecology, and Organismal Biology. And this is just one of the many plants that his lab studies. And they have started using iNaturalist to influence their research. And he explained why. So he explained that they have a lot of samples in the lab, a lot of specimens that are dried out, and those are valuable, but they want to see, the 3D nature of the plant. They want to see the colors of the plant during its life. And they just don't get that from all the specimens that they have that are dried out in the lab. He said a lot of them even will turn black when they're dried out, so they're not seeing the actual color of the plant. So that's one way in which they use iNaturalist observations to influence their research. The other thing is that, especially with some of the rarer plants that they study, when they see observations on iNaturalist, they will sometimes ask people if they are willing to to gather a sample of that specimen and send it to the lab. And I think that that's really neat when they're really rare and they're hard to find. Utilizing volunteers who are willing to do that, I think is really cool. And he said that a lot of people are willing to do that. So I know that I will be looking for this kind of plant because I think it would be really neat to gather samples for a lab. In the middle, you'll see a picture of a dragonfly, and there are certainly a lot of images of dragonflies on iNaturalist. And there's actually a paper that came out of Case Western Reserve University using those images of dragonflies, and it's kind of neat what they did. So it turns out that dragonflies in the northeastern United States tend to have much darker colored wings than those in southwestern United States. And so this paper kind of digs into, you know, is that really true? And if so, why? And I thought that it was really fascinating what they found. So they used images on iNaturalist, because remember, they're tagged with the location, to show that yes, indeed, there are much darker winged dragonflies in northeastern United States than there are in the southwestern United States. And the reason why is really fascinating. So if you imagine, you know, in the summertime when you wear like a dark shirt outside and you get really hot because it's absorbing all that light. Well, the same thing happens with dragonfly wings. So they're absorbing that light and warming up the body temperature of the dragonfly. Now, to an extent, that can be really beneficial to the dragonfly. So, you know, if it's in the morning and it's starting to warm up faster, they studied male dragonflies. So these dragonflies are now better able to defend their territory and to find a mate because they're able to fly faster because their body's warmed up. So that's great to a point. If it's too hot, then all of a sudden it is impeding their ability to fly. So now having those dark wings is no longer advantageous to those butterflies, or I'm sorry, to those dragonflies. So it makes sense that in colder climates, dragonflies tend to have darker wings to help warm their body temperature up, whereas in warmer climates, they don't want it to slow them down when it's just so hot, so they tend to have lighter colored wings. So I thought that that research was really, really interesting. And last but not least, I have a picture here of a very interesting parasitic plant called Tipritenia fotida. And I love this little story about iNaturalist because it really shows how iNaturalist and other citizen science projects connect people from all around the world. So it was actually a person from Canada who snapped this picture and uploaded it to iNaturalist, but they were on a trip to Peru. So they snapped the picture in Peru. And they said, I was on a walk and I saw this and I thought it looked really cool and I have no idea what it is. So they just posted it on iNaturalist. And it was actually a German botanist who identified the photo and said, oh, this is what it is. But he also shared that it was incredible that that had been found in Peru because previous to that observation, it had only been known to grow in northern Ecuador. So it was actually a very rare plant, and it turns out that it is more prevalent than it was known to be before. So those are just 3 examples. There are all sorts of ways that people use images on iNaturalist. So I mentioned before that we will be using iNaturalist for our BioBlitz. And if you don't know what a BioBlitz is, basically it is, it's just an event in which you try to identify as many different species of organisms as possible in a certain location over a certain amount of time. So our BioBlitz is going to be our location is going to be all of Ohio, so definitely share with friends and family who live in Ohio, and it's going to be May 6th through 9th, 2020. And all you need to do to participate in the BioBlitz is just upload some observations onto iNaturalist. Now, I do want to take just a moment to touch on the stay-at-home order that we have right now, because I imagine that that question is going to come up. So right now, we are under a stay-at-home order in Ohio. That order goes through May 1st. So keep in mind that there are going to be changes, and we don't know exactly what they're going to be before the BioBlitz, but here's what it is now. And we, like all of you, I'm sure, are carefully watching to see what the authorities are telling us. So as of right now, it is, perfectly okay to leave the home for outdoor activity and recreation. But in doing that, you need to make sure that you're complying with social distancing recommendations. So you can certainly go to the park and walk around, but you don't want a big group at the park. And I should just mention, so this little link, this bit.ly, will take you right there. So if you wanted to read the stay-at-home order for yourself, feel free to use that link, and that'll take you straight to it. Okay, so as an example, Hocking Hills is a place that I always used to enjoy going to. Should say still do. So these are some pictures of people in Hocking Hills, and just to kind of drive the point home, what can and can't you do? Well, you can certainly go for a walk in the park. You can certainly go for a walk with your immediate family, or with your family that lives in your household. Anyone who lives in your household, but you don't want to be meeting up with people there. You don't want to be going to crowded spots. And I actually use Hocking Hills because one of the things that happened when the stay-at-home order was in effect was that a lot of people said, okay, we can go outside, let's go to Hocking Hills. And unfortunately, they actually ended up closing the Hocking Hills State Park because there were just too many people showing up. So this is another thing you're going to want to do, is check your Metro Parks website. Just double check before you go. I think most Metro Parks are still open, but make sure that that's the case. With that being said, you don't necessarily need to go very far, or far at all, to find an organism to make an observation of in iNaturalist. So I just shared a few pictures here. You can walk out into your backyard, and chances are you may find a weed. So take a picture of it, upload as an observation before you pull it out, if you're going to do that. If you have trees or bird feeders near you, you can certainly take images of birds. Sometimes they're tricky to get good pictures of, but with enough practice, I'm sure you'll get some good ones. Even walking down the sidewalk, there are weeds growing in the cracks in sidewalks. There are going to be bugs climbing on, on building walls. There are all sorts of different places where you can find organisms to take images of. So I know I've taken a lot of walks around the block and taken pictures. And one thing I've found with iNaturalist is that it kind of makes me more observant of the world around me. So I hope that that will be the case for you all. So this is just a kind of a snapshot of our project on iNaturalist. You can go to the project page. There's a link right here. Right now, it just has a countdown. So this is going to be starting in 2 weeks. But as soon as the BioBlitz begins, there is going to be actually a leaderboard up on here. So it'll be fun to check back, and you can go ahead and go into the project and click Join Project to keep up with it. And you can see if you're on the leaderboard, and that just means you have, the most observations or the most different species on your iNaturalist account. So definitely be sure to follow us on iNaturalist. But as long as you're making your observations somewhere in Ohio during that time, they will count for the BioBlitz. So you don't need to manually enter them into the project. So to summarize, I hope that you're excited. I hope some of you have downloaded iNaturalist already during this webinar, and I hope you'll participate in our BioBlitz. It's a great way for families to go out and experience nature. If you are an educator, whether you're a teacher doing distance learning with your students, or a parent trying to homeschool, we do have a free lesson plan available, and we will be sending that out via email after this webinar. So you will have access to that if you'd like to use it. We'll also be posting, if you're really excited about citizen science, at our new digital portal, COSI Connects, and I have a link right here. It's cosi.org/COSI Connects. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that we post a new citizen science project of the week every single Monday. So if you're looking for ideas on different citizen science projects, go ahead and go on there. I think the one right now is counting penguins. And I love to take any questions. So if there are any questions, I'll give you a minute. You can go ahead and type questions into the chat box. And it wasn't that big of a spider, but it also was just kind of sitting there. So I was able to get up close and really zoom in. And in the image, you can actually see 4 of its eyes really close up. So that to me was really, really cool. Thanks for that question. Give a couple of minutes for other questions. Okay, really great question here. Is there any specific observation that you all should be thinking about putting on iNaturalist? And I would say no. You can make observations of any living things. With that being said, I know that one of the researchers I spoke with at Ohio State studies moss, M-O-S-S, moss growing on trees, and I think that that's one of those things that I often overlook. So, there really isn't anything specific. I think anything that you find interesting, go ahead and take a picture of, and don't overlook that moss. Go ahead and take those pictures, because I know that they're really excited about our BioBlitz and about the influx of observations that are going to be made during the BioBlitz. I would love to know if anyone finds that pine sap that I put an image up of before. Pull it up. There it is. I would love to know if anyone finds that, because I hear they're pretty rare. So if there are not any other questions, I would like to thank all of you for being here. Whoops. Sorry about that, my scroll bar. I'd like to thank all of you for being here, taking some time to listen to me and hear about citizen science. I hope you all are well and will be participating in citizen science soon. Thanks so much.